Hi, everyone. My name is Jeannette Deleuze. For those of you who don't know, I am here presenting today about the gray space. So, rethinking high school. High school has been a big topic of conversation, especially with the government putting some extra regulations and um, parameters in place, and it's not necessarily beneficial for our kids. So we're going to take a look at different options. A lot of people are unfamiliar with the options that they have, so we're going to look at it from different perspectives. So let's get started. Okay, so why is high school being redesigned? The pressure is coming from both sides. Families want a better fit, and the labor market wants stronger proof of skills. So again, number one, the system is tightening. The stronger oversight is going to do nothing for student achievement, motivation. Um, the expectations are very different. I was just talking to Marie, who's on this call, about how they have some programs that should be scaled but aren't being scaled. That would be really beneficial for teenagers. And parents can't wait for waiting lists anymore. They want active solutions now, today. And I will leave this for you to read. I'm just going to go through some of the Coles notes to make sure you understand some of the thought process behind some of these points. So, number two, teen needs are changing. So, a lot of teens are facing a lot of unseen issues. So, what we have in a lot of these high schools, I've worked in the education sector and mental health, primarily with actually high school. And what isn't talked about is, the anxiety, the bullying, all the issues behind their lack of attendance, drugs, promiscuity. There are so many issues when you bring a lot of teenagers together that can come up. And unfortunately, there's a lot of elements that are not being addressed. They don't have the proper mentorship and care that they deserve because even though they are starting to engage in the adult landscape, they are still, in fact, children and need guidance. So the old model has been broken for some time. The entire pipeline, matter of fact, is broken and busting at the seams. So work is changing faster than school for our third point here. Employers are not getting the skill sets that they need to drive positive outcomes in business. So, like communication, reliability, problem solving, initiative, digital fluency, practical judgment. Um, it's not just marks anymore and transcripts. We need more. So, the next high school conversation is not public versus private. It is how do we build a flexible pathway that keeps youth connected, credentialed, skilled, and hopeful? So, shared takeaway for parents and educators. So, we're going to come out of this with three major takeaways. So, the a useful pathway is designed around the learner, not just around the timetable. So, takeaway one, start with the future adult. We are going to look at backward design. We, you know, you just kind of throw these kids into a path, but you don't really think at the end of the journey, what kind of person are we building? Like socially, emotionally, financially, creatively, spiritually, professionally. What do they want internally? What is the outcome internally, right? Because success is not only money, it's how we are in our hearts, in our souls, in our minds. There, we are complex beings, and it's important to take a look at the whole self. Takeaway two, keep the diploma, widen the pathway. If it was up to me, I would throw the diploma, but I don't think people are there yet. These systems have been in place for a very long time. And so I understand that there's a safety net with wanting to stay within certain traditional pathways. And some of those traditional pathways are necessary for 7.7% of employment options that are highly regulated. You would need to follow the traditional path, and that is one that is credentialed. So the OSSD can remain a part of the plan, but students can gain experience through co-op, mentorship, entrepreneurship, trades, community learning, and independent projects. So essentially, you can mix and match things in a way that is completely untraditional but meets all your child's needs. We're going to dive into that a little more deeply in a moment. Takeaway 3, build a portfolio of proof. So yeah, credits tell one story, but there we are, as I said, complex, and there are many sides to every child. So projects, references, certifications, volunteer work, business ideas, work placements, and community contributions tell another. You know, what has come out of their failures, what has just the journey in itself and the lessons that they picked up along the way have so much value. Okay, backward design. Build for the life that they want, not the life that you want. Instead of asking only what courses should they take, map the outcome first and reverse engineer the pathway. We're going to look at different examples, and I'm going to share a good follow for you guys to give it more perspective so you can start really understanding the dialogue and the direction. So the life vision, what makes this young person feel healthy, motivated, useful, connected, and proud? So everybody deserves to have purpose. It is healthy for us to have purpose and to have some kind of life mission, whether it's in the home, in the world, in an industry, in any capacity, it is important to have some kind of purpose. And you want to know what that is for your young person. Industry and community fit. Which sectors, causes, environments, and adult role models catch their strengths? And make sure you map this out. And again, map it backwards. What are the outcomes they want to see? And then backward design everything. Because nowadays, everything's very out there. So if there's a mentor that they idealize, how do they get to that outcome? Skills and credentials. What credits, certifications, work habits, literacy, numeracy, and communication skills are required? So it's not only, you can use the high school credentials, yes, as a baseline. If you want them to achieve their OSSD, you can do that online. You can do night school, summer school. There are so many options, and you can piecemeal things. There are no rules, despite what we've been told. Pathway mix. So which blend of school, online, co-op, mentorship, teen hub, project work, tutoring, and wellness support gets them there. And we're going to look at it different pathways. So backward design keeps the conversation focused on purpose, not panic. Now, if you guys follow one account called Degree Free, they actually explore a lot of different options. So here's a great example that they used. There was one young person who wanted to be a pilot. One of their future objectives was a family. It was very important. In the future, they wanted to have a family. It was a huge priority. Now, pilots do have high divorce rates. Sorry if there's any pilots listening. But given that that is a con in the industry, they were looking at pursuing, so they were looking at pursuing becoming a pilot, but in a different context. In the charter space, so that it would give them more flexibility. They could be at home more often with their family and the people that matter most to them. So there's always different versions. And if you think of aviation, it is a very broad sector. So when you are backward designing something like in aviation, look at it in its entirety and the jobs that are associated with it. What events are connected to it? Who can they connect to? And a lot of adults, I know myself included, we are always so excited when we have a young person that is keen on learning and being mentored and participating in, being guided by like older generations. That is intergenerational collaboration is so beneficial in growing these young minds. So now let's take a look. We can touch on other industries if people have questions. Now, parents, your role is pathway architect. And you do not need every answer. You need a clearer way to ask the right questions. So, number one, protect belonging first. A teen who feels unsafe, unseen, or disconnected will struggle to plan for the future. Fit matters. Now, one thing about teenagers, they do have, a lot of them have the will of iron. That is not a bad thing. It is a very great skill to have when you are older, when you are younger and needing to receive. Sometimes it can be a challenge, but it is very important that when you talk to them, there is, a baseline of mutual respect. You want them to feel heard. And when they have this sense of connection with the families, with people around them, it changes their perspective on life. I know a lot of these schools are kind of built on very industrial models and it's just a factory, but that's not how teens thrive. They need connection. Like even chickens need social connection. So to think that a teen needs space to connect with others is really not unrealistic. Even if they want to shut the door and they're too cool for school, they still long for connection and to be in the right space. So it might require some, research and some difficult conversations, but I think everything difficult is worth addressing head on because you end up in more positive spaces when you do the hard stuff. So number two, separate diploma from delivery. So yes, your goal might be OSSD, given that we are in that, as Jillian has very eloquently called, that messy middle of, evolution in the education space. So, but the route can include online credits, tutoring, co-op, private courses, hubs, and community learning. So you can do an online component. If there is an area that they're struggling in and they want more in person, they can get a private tutor. Star Students does a great job of helping. There's so many educators that would be happy to tutor, as well as like small environments, just a guide to walk them through because the online can be very disconnected. And so even creating a safe space for them to receive. And you can always transfer your credits to your OSSD. So you can take some online, some at night school, some here, some there, and bring them together. It's really that easy. You can even have them graduate early. So don't look at it in the traditional way. So think of the 14-year-old baby genius that went through high school in, T minus 1 year. If the knowledge and skill set is there, they can shortcut a lot of these credentials and just move through them with the swiftness. Um, and it's again, listening to the voice of our young people because they have one and it needs to be heard. So, number three, track real world growth. Keeping a living portfolio, projects, paid work, references, volunteering, certificates, business attempts, leadership, and service. There's lots of different ways to document portfolio growth. I would recommend you do research. That can be part of, you have them do the backwards design, create lists, teach them how to break down their goals. And one of them could be, how do I track my portfolio? That could be, which can tie into designing a website. There are so many, if you don't want it online in that way, maybe you can start a private social media account as maybe they're young, you don't really want them on there, but you can kind of start a documentation of said journey in a more visual way. So maybe something on Instagram or on LinkedIn, teach them how to use it appropriately, what to post, what not to post in terms of their achievements, how to lay things out. There's so many different ways to lay out a portfolio. So I do recommend that you approach that and take a look. And then I'm going to also dive into some industry specific solutions that you can, because that's the goal, right? We're bridging the gap between education and industry. Now, educators become pathway builders. So the opportunities to design flexible learning that connects credits, skills, community, and confidence. So number one, package learning around outcomes. So, you know, what name what students can do when they leave. So line everything that they can accomplish and they can do, you want to lay it out and make sure that you are kind of, again, creating that portfolio of, their presentation skills, what they can write, budget. Maybe they have like a link to a YouTube video of a presentation or a debate that they did and what they learned from it. And it doesn't have to be lengthy. You don't have to write a whole novel every time you write a portfolio drop of any kind. Just reflect on the skills that were acquired and what the outcomes were. And pros and cons, because when someone can be reflective of themselves and it shows self-awareness and an ability to take accountability, which is kind of a big problem in today's day and age, to be honest. It helps them be able to receive so that they can improve. And that's the goal of accountability. So number two, create flexible entry points. So offer teen hubs, 6-week project blocks, 1-day intensive, credit support, mentorship, circles, tutoring, parent sessions, and co-op prep. So I encourage educators, if you have a big space, drop it in some homeschooling groups that, hey, we have a room that we can extend to some teenagers to try like a teen hub. Are there homeschoolers in the area that are interested? And also, parents, find your local alternative school. Ask them, hey, I got a group, and take initiative. Say, hey, I reached out to my kids' parents and like their friends, and there's a group of 5 of us that would like to, rent maybe a teen hub out of your alternative school, or we would like to, be able to have co-op students at your school. Are you open to that? Can you do an intensive 1-week workshop on this, that, or the other? These alternative education spaces want to grow and they want to share their skills. And that is our passion, which is why we're going through the painful journey of creating these new education pathways, because we want these outcomes for our kids. We want better outcomes for society. And so we would be more than happy to help you build any kind of flexible entry points or fill any gaps, because a lot of us, we are obsessed with the education sector. So if you are not sure what options there are available to you, ask. Have the audacity to ask. And encourage your children also to always ask. What's the worst people can say? No. And if they don't even have the space, but then they hear from someone else, hey, we have this space, it's not being used. We would love to kind of extend it to the, outside community. Do you think you can make it happen? Absolutely. Or you're interested in agriculture, reach out to a farm in your area, bring some of the homeschoolers, do a 1-week intensive. Your child wants to learn about an industry, reach out to like, hey, we have parents in these industry areas who would be willing to, take a kid to work day kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be your kid. It could be somebody's kid. And because they might be interested in opposite industries. So yeah, share your resources. So 3, document evidence of learning. Again, back to portfolios, exhibitions, references, like exhibitions, if they're into art, have an art gallery. What does it take to create an art gallery? That would be a project in itself that could be documented and referred to, event management, scheduling, follow-up. There are so many things, references, reflection logs, skill rubrics, micro-credentials, and community presentations. Bring people together. If they want to be an entrepreneur, bring entrepreneurs together. Piggyback on some of these alternative schools already do little business markets. And so you can also piggyback off of that and be like, hey, we're interested in doing that. We have a group of teens. Do you think we can join you? And of course, there's some fees associated. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be $1 million, but Contributing to your local education, alternative education environments is helpful because it is blood, sweat, and tears, and educators' own money that they're pouring into. So contributions always help, right? Educator opportunity. The new high school model may look less like a single institution and more like an ecosystem of aligned adults. And that's what we're doing with each other, creating aligned adults. There are so many groups. Everything is so fragmented, which Refound Education is looking to do something about. But of course, it takes time. Well, this is probably the biggest change in education we've ever seen in our lives. So we don't need to ask students, what do you want to be when you grow up? And honestly, what do they know? Some of them, Superman, they want to be astronauts, which whatever, you can be an astronaut, but sometimes they're not always grounded in what, the job market is looking like, or, sometimes reality. And we want to make sure that um, we're there for them in their guidance. We need to ask, what kind of life are you building and how can education help you get there? So also, like, what does your child like to be inside? Do they love to be outside? There's a guy getting paid for planting trees and hiking, and he gets paid a crazy amount of money to do that. There's some people that, do workshops on foraging, or there's so many outdoor work that you can use or like take advantage of. And, being connected to nature, of course, is always a benefit, but also doing computer work and all that kind of that side of business also has its benefits, right? We need everything. So, community, rebuild the village around teens. So, high school evolution is not only a school issue, it is a community design issue, 100%. So, what community can offer? Safe spaces, mentors, volunteer placements, intergenerational learning. There's a lot of retired people, and do they want to show up for kids every day for the entire year? Not necessarily, but would they mind, coming in, contributing their skill sets for like a week, a workshop, a 6 week intensive, once a week for absolutely they would. It's, ties back to purpose and sharing their knowledge. And it is a beautiful thing. So local projects, so connect with, brands and companies and like, hey, we need funding for this. We want to do an agricultural program. Do you think you can fund this? In exchange for some brand awareness. And there's so many different opportunities. And also, like, parents take initiative. It doesn't take a lot to have ChatGPT pump out some kind of like email letter saying, hey, we're interested. This is what we're trying to do, yada, yada. Hope to get back to you. Because these educators are so busy in their day to day, having parents on board, and that could take you honestly 5 minutes, is so helpful. So transportation solutions, yes, getting humans to different places is always a challenge. So getting people to coordinate for carpooling or anything, always a benefit. Mental health supports, counseling. Sometimes as the parent, you're seen as like the old shoe or, what do they know? Sometimes it's interesting because I've counseled so many very rascally teens, and I'll give them some, feedback, and they'll be, oh, my mom said that, my dad said that. And sometimes it just needs to come from someone fresh and different and a little bit on the outside for them to receive. But teens do listen also, so be aware of that they are always receiving, even if they're a little initially resistant to doing so. Why it matters. Disconnected teens do not need more courses. And this ties back even to younger kids, inundating them with a million things. It's not beneficial. One thing at a time, two things at a time, pace it out, get a sense of what they can handle, and then build on that, right? If they are coming from a place of anxiousness, start with one thing. It's kind of like running a marathon. You start with the one step, you start with a walk around the block until you build, you build, you build, and you can take, stronger position. They need purpose, rhythm, contribution, trusted adults, peer belonging, and visible pathways into adult life. And they need your support in like arranging this. Even little things like milestones, dances, the soccer fest was so warmly received. Um, they want opportunities to come together and they just need guidance from adults on how to facilitate it and even have them go through the process of facilitating. And then you can just hand the baton to them once they kind of understand how to, develop that kind of like an event, how to follow up, how to, once they have those skill sets in place, and you show them the way, they can take that off of your plate. So just because you're signing up for something, it doesn't need to be a life sentence. You can then pass it on to them and they can be active leaders and take it from there. So what to build next? Local teen hubs, community co-ops, founder mentorship, parent navigation nights, portfolio showcases, trade stays, wellness circles, and shared spaces. So you can use co-working spaces, you can use libraries, you can use alternative education spaces, you can use farms, you can use a, a the park. You can literally use any space from free to paid. And depending on what you want, you can actually lower costs if you come together as parents too, because you can approach like, say you have a someone who facilitates STEM activities, but they've done it maybe till 12-year-olds, but you're like, we want something more complex for our teens. Reach out to them, say, hey, we have a group of teens. This is what we want. Are you open to facilitating that? If they're not, maybe they know somebody. So have those conversations. It's really can be as quick as a voice note, a DM. It does not have to be hard. Don't make things hard. So let's take a look. So industry connections. So making the future visible. Students need earlier, more human exposure to the people and sectors that shape real life. And so industry partners can provide partnership, job shadows, co-op placements, project briefs, workplace tours, safety training, portfolio feedback, real world problems to solve. So, and you can have your child in the backward design process if they've identified an industry or more than one industry. We have an educator here whose daughter is wanted to do either legal or marketing. And I'm like, why doesn't she do both? Lawyers aren't always the best at their marketing. And some of them do not want to tackle it with a 10-foot pole. So, hey, that would be a job market because if you can have, when you have marketing from a very specific industry lens and you know how to use the language, how to connect with the people, you can really chisel out a very amazing kind of pathway for yourself if you bring more than one industry together. And yeah, it is not they're not picking a life sentence. People change their professions 5 to 7 times in a lifetime. And that is nowadays probably more, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, and have them, make a list of everything related to that industry there. So the companies, the events, conferences, have them create lists. And like, even for example, if there's a conference and the conference is $1,400 for like 4 days, and you're like, no. But maybe one day is like 250 bucks, and you're like, okay, I could swing the one day. A lot of those people have those conferences covered by their employers. So most of them fade out by the end anyways. So showing up on the first day and having a fresh face with business cards and, young person who is authentically engaged and excited to meet people, that will get people's attention. So put yourself out there and they can work on their people skills, introducing themselves, all those soft skills needed. Students can bring curiosity, digital skills, creativity, service, communication, reliability, fresh thinking, community knowledge, and entrepreneurial energy. So educators might not like to admit that some of these some kids are, a lot of kids are struggling, don't get me wrong, but they're on the flip side, there's some kids that are super sharp, and some of them are smarter than the educators themselves. And what happens when the student has outmastered the teacher, right? They start to pursue knowledge elsewhere, or behavioral concerns can become a part of that. So making sure that they have a mentor that is just above their evolutionary point is very important. And it's okay to admit, you don't have to say it out loud because, it can be hurtful to some people, but also not everybody knows everything. We're not supposed to, and that's okay. So finding someone who, like if your kid is into finance and, high school economics can only take you so far and they're already here, then you might want to find a mentor that is, of course, above that. Um, and there's a lot of online workshop. I do encourage you though, if they take like other courses outside, make sure you keep a record of it, just a list of, what they took, the description of the course, um, the timelines. So just kind of keep not a transcript of grades, a transcript of everything that they have taken that can add to their portfolio. So the bridge to build, connect curriculum to economic sectors. So skilled trades, healthcare, childcare, agriculture, tech, arts, hospitality, entrepreneurship, social impact, and other industries. So and there are, like, you have to dive into some more information about these trades. Maybe have your child backward design one of the, some of the mentors, like who do you look up to? Make a list. Start to engage them online, say hello. I have gotten a lot of opportunities just out of audacity to ask, and I encourage them to do so too. So, like, map it out, tell them to look at their backgrounds, reach out, what are appropriate comments to post and how to share. Social media also is not the devil. It's a tool, and how it's used can be positive or negative. Just kind of like a knife, right? If the problem is teens have been given social media and they have not been given the skills to wield it appropriately, and being mindful that their interactions online will connect to industry outcomes in future. So getting them to understand how to approach people appropriately online, how to present themselves appropriately online, it's a very great skill to have. And they need guidance. They're little, they're just in very big bodies, and they're starting to engage in adult behaviors, and they don't understand the consequences. They do not have life experience. So transcript plus portfolio plus references equals stronger transition to work, college, apprenticeship, entrepreneurship, or university, or more than one of those things. Okay, so pathway menu, options that can be blended. So the future is likely less pick one school and more design right combination. So the design principle, keep credentials intact while expanding where, how, and with whom learning happens. Our children are products of their environment. It's nature versus nurture, both have importance in how our children develop. So it's reality. Um, so one option, of course, is the public Catholic French boards. And that is everything in its traditional sense. I'm not going to go over that. So micro schools, alternative, individual, independent schools, private schools, they have a smaller culture, specialized pedagogy, and direct fit. All alternative or privatized schools, they do have a business model. That means it's run by an entrepreneur with business knowledge that can be capitalized on. You can ask the principal, like, hey, would you do an entrepreneurship workshop with them? And they would be more than happy, even if it's something they don't want to take on in the long term for the whole year. It can be shortened, it can be tweaked and adjusted according to the needs of the community. Online learning plus local hubs, credits online with in-person support and projects. Um, You know what? I'm going to go through all of them and then I can kind of go through some examples and maybe you can share some of, your child's journey, what some of the outcomes that they're looking to achieve, and we can kind of support you in that. And I can bring up some examples of what I've heard from community. So like online learning in local hubs. So credits online with in-person support and projects. So that ties into to before. They can do OSSD online. They can do it inside of an alternative school with a guide and a group of kids. You can do it in a library. You can do it in any way, shape, or form. Homeschool collective, similar experience, flexible pace, parent-directed, community-rich learning. People like to come down on these homeschoolers, but the fact of the matter is the people that are facilitating these parents are professionals. Some of them have sacrificed their profession to make sure that they are pouring into their children 2000%. So they do have a knowledge base. They are very well, you know, read in something. And between every parent, there is something to contribute. So then there's the traditional, so I don't want to mess up this acronym here. So the specialist high skills majors. So essentially, you can look into different programs that are more specialist. The OYAP is Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. You can take a look at that. Every province, every state, wherever you are will have some kind of program. And dual credits. They even have some 2-for-1 courses that you can take advantage of. So you get some sector exposure, apprenticeships. Some of those are regulated, but you don't necessarily have to be regulated. I will leave that to the people in the industry to explain in depth because that is not necessarily my peanut butter and jelly, but they can let you know the meat and potatoes of that. College linked pathways, there are several, but honestly, higher education is losing its ROI. And the pipeline, so high school was always a pipeline to college and university, there is financial incentive to feeding said pipeline. So the ROI is lost. So that is going to look very different. But again, 7.7% of jobs in the industry that are more regulated will require. So that is not something to also ignore, depending. So co-op plus mentorship, workplace learning, references, confidence, portfolio proof. So even if your kid doesn't want to, co-op long term, one day, 1 week, a few months, once a week for 3 months, you can lay the terms however you like. They could work at a paid job one day, do a co-op on another day, do homeschooling online courses 3 days. You can design it. There's no rules. There's really actually no rules. Well, there's always some kind of terms of engagement, but essentially it's not as rigid as people would make it seem. Tutoring plus interventions, literacy, math, executive function, credit recovery. Yeah. So you have different options. If you are not loving sometimes home, you get frustrated teaching your own kids. It happens. I get it. I have my own little rascals who sometimes take me for a ride. And as they get older, sometimes you bump heads, and that's okay. You bring in other people to be that buffer space that you need, and they bring in their skill sets to maybe they're struggling in the area of literacy, maybe they're struggling in the area of math or you can find resources to support you. And if you find maybe it's costly to have that resources, bring in another parent, share the financial burden with a friend. There is always a solution. Barter. There is nothing stopping any of us. Wellness and social support. So belonging, nervous system support, safe peer connection. And that could look like as well. We don't do this in high school, but we should. But maybe their journey could include like sound healing or some kind of nervous system regulation. If they are anxious, if you don't help the heart, you're not going to get to the head. So if you need to incorporate other out of the box solutions to support their heart, do that because they are always more receptive to learning when you are addressing their, their heart and soul. And okay. Also, I really want you guys, when you are designing these options, to kind of forget what you've been told over the years. We have been given all these rules and certain paths, and you have to do this and you have to do that. But the creator space is going to reach, I think, over 350, it's like $1 billion in the next few years. The world is their oyster, but they still need your guidance. So even, for example, you have an art student who loves doing their art. Say they like um, pottery. So they might be good at doing the pottery, but what are they not doing? Like, do they know how to do a contract in regards to like art? Do they know how to do the numbers side, the business side, um, how to plan an art gallery? You need to build on some of those skills that they would not be naturally inclined to. Like an artist isn't going to gravitate to the legal and monetary side of the business, but those are important things. And also to the kids who don't know what the hell they want to do. Um, that's okay. I would focus on actually the skill sets. So, project management, how to start and finish things, how to like scheduling, how to manage a schedule, um, you know, how to sell, because you do have to sell everything. Even as an educator, if we're not selling the idea to the kids, and right now you have to be very theatrical, especially you're competing with the internet. So you have to develop the sales side of things. And you can give them like challenges, like you need to make 500 phone calls in 6 months. What does that look like? It looks like a lot of failure. It looks like, having people hang up on you. It looks like, so have them walk through some of the skill sets to get to certain things. And you kind of, by default, I would do, if they don't know what they're going to do, and you want them to still do something, everybody wants to do something, do the business side, learn about how to manage your money, how to document your money. My children are 5 and 7, and we've already started the process of just documenting, and we just separate into spend, save, and invest. And on a basic level, as they get older, how do you document your expenses, your operational costs? What does it, net gross, what does that mean? You can give them those skill sets and just kind of focus on some of those elements, like the engineering process, the creative process. Where do you start? What does the process look like? Where do you end? So you can take any of those pieces and actually make it work together in different ways. So the next high school will be designed, not inherited. No, we are not inheriting these old systems. I'm sorry to all of those who have been so committed, but I don't know about you. Stick a fork in me. I'm cooked. I cannot. It didn't work for us back then. I know a lot of people talk about the problems that are occurring in high school. We have always had problems with teenagers. I worked with gangs in high school for years. And even back in the days, look at like the hippie days, uh, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Every generation has had issues with motivating teens. We are entering a new era, don't get me wrong, and there are a new set of problems with social media. but we can manage them all. We are all smart, we are all capable, we are all heart-led, and we will make this happen for our kids because we don't have a choice and we love them. So for parents, design backward from the life your teen is building. And don't, and it's not about you. Sorry. Your guidance is important, but if it's not about your dreams that you didn't follow, sorry. But it's about what they want completely and entirely. And just, making sure that they understand. And even if it sounds unrealistic, don't shoot it down. Map it out. For educators, design flexible pathways with clear outcomes. So yes, put it into your villages, into your newsletters that you are open or willing to receive groups of teens that would want to engage in high school in a different way. So just kind of putting a notice of intent into your community would actually drive positively. Even if you can't do it all the time, just be like, hey, Fridays we're more flexible. We have a farm if they want to come and learn more about agriculture. We're willing to, receive them. Yeah. So get creative and put your intent out there. For community and industry, open the doors so learning connects to purpose, contribution, and work. So I know a lot of people are scared like AI is going to take all our jobs. And I'm not saying that there isn't going to be a transition point on how this evolves. And it can be very frightening. But there's also going to be a lot of money in the creator market, and you can't lose the human touch. So have faith in yourself, have faith in others and in your community and the future outcomes, because these kids are pretty sharp. And I think that our parents today are being very conscientious of how they're raising their children. And I'm so optimistic about the future. And I hope you guys are too. And we are going to be mapping more complex ecosystems as we grow, but everything takes time and dedication. So I want to thank everybody for coming here. If you have any questions, please reach out to info@refounded.ca, and we're here to help. And yeah, thank you for listening. Does anybody have any questions? Was I talking too fast? Susan, hi. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, my computer moved me to another screen for some reason. Thank you so much. That was really great, Jeanette. And as always, I love when things are and I'm talking to the choir aligned, right? And your comments are so bang on. I remember several years ago when there was an increase in suicides in Stratford, Ontario, and all of our coaches from all over Ontario, our Kids Coaching Connection coaches, went to Stratford because the students were saying they weren't being heard, and they all walked out. They did a massive walkout of their high schools, and so our coaches went to Stratford to support them, and they really felt heard and seen, and many of them then took the program and then went back and started coaching their peers, and then went on to university to really do amazing things. And it's so important, but again, we're talking to the choir, but yeah, let's
But
keep encouraging each other.
can you share where they can reach you? Because Susan has an incredible program.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. Susan at magnificentcreations.com. And it's, yeah, the program, the Kids Coaching Connection program, I have two now. It focuses on, a fully accredited program with the International Coaching Federation that focuses on coaching youth, children, and families. So it's one of the things that I've been trying to do is get it into the high schools as a credit for high school students, because they don't go to their counselors, and they're not, well, again, we all know that the connection is not there. So imagine, because they have to go through the rigorous process that everybody else does, and they do better than a lot of the adults that go through the program because their hearts are open and the model is based in the heart, and it's an incredible process. So they then are able to, if they want to, start their own business as a professional life coach to support their peers and even adults. So any ideas, any ways of supporting getting it into the high schools would be great. I'll put in the website as well. Yeah, we're starting a new cohort in June probably. And I just started also the coaching connection because some people are like, "Oh, I don't work with kids." Okay, so let's call it coaching connection. It's the same program, but call it what you want.
We're
Um,
still kids in high school, and
and we're all, they're all kids. Exactly. We're all kids. We just have big skin. That's the thing. So,
And this
um,
ties into what I was saying also before. You can contact Susan if you have a local alternative school or a farm and you have the space, reach out to her and say, hey, we want somebody to facilitate this. We don't know what we're doing. Our teenagers are driving us crazy. Because they are starving for it. I know
they
they
are.
might act disinterested. And I've worked in low income areas where I had kids come from other areas and they're like, yo, miss, I heard you know what's up. I'm like, you don't go here. You're trespassing. Let's go to the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the fact that these unmotivated teens, this kid just took multiple buses
Right.
to improve their circumstances.
Well, because you heard them, you listened to them. As you said, you connected with their heart and soul. They were listened to and heard, and doesn't sound like rocket science, but it's not something that is taught in teachers' colleges. That's why I still teach, a course at the university to pre-teachers so that they can get this, at least the foundational pieces to help them navigate when they go on to teachers college and or into the early childhood programs. So yeah. So yeah,
That's the
please, I would love
solid
to hear
approach.
more, Marie. Please, yeah, please contact me. That would be great.
Jeanette,
Hmm.
hi.
Hey.
I love Susan. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I took all the information down. And you were talking about Teachers College, and to anyone that is listening, educators that run spaces, the Teachers College now has a placement in alternative sectors. And so we've welcomed students that are going through the process of becoming teachers. And what you were talking about, Susan, is going into the teachers colleges to talk to students about this, because I went through teachers college and we were never taught about this. But when they come into these alternative environments, like these students that came out of it, they're like, everything that we learn inside the spaces of how to hear the children, how to let them lead, like taking that back into their practice has been incredible, right? And so if you have the opportunity to welcome any student teachers, I do it. Please do it. It is a gift. It's a gift not only to your alternative community that you're building, but it is a gift that is going outward, right? Because they are going to take the learnings and then apply them into their environments.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so somebody asked also, how do we connect with these student teachers? Make a list. I'm obsessed with lists. So, but make a list of all the colleges, universities in your area, and then create a list of anything related to the child industry, child psychology, teacher. There are so many different kind of professions that support in that realm. I do see higher education in the teacher realm changing, but in the meantime, that's the circumstances. Um, just approach them and call there and say, hey, we are an alternative space. We want to receive student teachers. We want to receive, people that are interested in child psychology or mental health. And then if you find that there are gaps to some of these educators, even like, okay, you have a group of educators that came into your program, they're really great, they're kind of missing some skills. You don't have time as the facilitator of this or the principal of the school to address it. You can bring in like someone else, like Susan, to kind of do a workshop with them, or you can. There's so much we can do if we can actually connect with each other and find out the gaps and find the people to support these gaps. And if you are unsure, reach out. And then as the ecosystems develop, as more money is brought in and more investment, we'll be able to interconnect these systems to make our lives easier and make sure that our kids have all the skills that they need. But
Mhm. Yeah.
don't
I
be
and
shy.
sorry, Jeanette.
Yeah,
So contact me. I teach at TMU, which is Old Ryerson. So they're pre-teachers, and a lot of them go into the faculty, and some of them become early childhood educators. And I know the person that does the placements. So contact me, and I'll give you her personal contact that you can call and say, "Hey, Susan gave me your." I'll do it, this the soft connect with you if you want, or send her an email and you an email together if you're wanting that as well. So I'm happy to do that. And with the semester just ending, I'm sure that they're always, I know they're always looking for good placements. And yeah, so I'm happy to support in any way I can in that way. Yeah.
And I have some connections to the Child and Youth Work program as well. So if anybody needs help connecting, I can connect to some people in that realm. But yeah, take advantage of free help in a positive way because, there is a mutual exchange that happens.
Right.
They get the support and we are molding the next generation. And I think these people might complain about this generation, but honestly, some of them are having strong boundaries and they're saying, I don't want to work in these circumstances. This is not conducive to my mental health, the mental health of the children. And they're having a stronger voice. I think it's a,
Incredible strong voice.
I think it's a great thing, but
It is. I'm like, whoa.
uh,
And putting boundaries. I'm like, I wish what happened to us 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? Yeah.
well, I think people have been squeezed for
Yeah.
so long, and it's just not realistic. We can't take advantage of people for that long and expect positive outcomes because the duct tape and chewing gum that it has been holding everything together is losing its stickiness. So.
Yeah.
And oh, I have Sarah, a homeschooler. Are there parent hubs for parents to get together and chat about high school ideas in the community at a local library or coffee shop? What we can do, I'm going to start some WhatsApp groups. I'm going to start separating, not everybody's Instagram. Given I'm a millennial, I'm more inclined toward Instagram, but not everybody is. Some are more inclined to Facebook or TikTok. I can't do TikTok. So I'm just going to do some outside chats and we will connect them all across all 9 social medias and make sure that there is a space for parents and we'll bring in educators in that group and they can just share resources openly and we'll do one for educators and we're going to do one for the membership so that we can keep growing and changing the trajectory of society. Hopefully, it will happen. All
It
right,
is happening.
it is happening. Thank you to all the incredible souls that work tirelessly and do not give up, who share their resources openly. Thank you, Susan, and to everybody in the chat for showing up. Marie, Sarah, Melinda, you guys are always so open and kind, and thank you for always being leaders in the space. And if we keep sharing and connecting, things are always going to fall into place and everything will work out. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. Have a happy Sunday.
Bye, all. Take good care. Or Jeanette, can we get the slides? That'd be really great because I do a lot of work in the schools and I'd like to incorporate some of the wording that you have into when I'm not going to steal it all, don't worry about that, but some of the wording would be really beneficial.
Hey, just do a
So,
name drop.
yeah, oh, I'll do a name drop as
Do a
well.
network
Yeah,
drop.
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Let's
Yeah,
get more educators
there-
working together and
yeah, absolutely. There's a school
everybody.
here in Picton that so needs help that I've been planting seeds for a couple years. So,
It
yeah,
takes time,
it
but
takes
we
time.
are,
I do
uh,
more in Toronto, but I'd like to do some a little closer to home.
we need to do something about the rural environment
Yeah.
and we'll be tackling that beast. And thank you to everybody who has been, partnering and collabing on projects. Thank you so much. It's t teamwork to make the dream work. So have a happy Sunday, everyone.
Take good care, all.
Take good care. Appreciate you. Bye, everyone.